Well, hello and welcome to Binge Watch, the podcast where we take a look at the hottest new TV and film releases on streaming television platforms. I'm Hannah Fernando, the group editor of Woman and Home magazine.
And I'm Ian MacEwan, writer on TV and Satellite Week, TV Times and What's on TV magazines. And today we're looking at the new releases that will be available on Friday the 24th of May 2024. Including Vicky McClure as a sleep-deprived lawyer in Insomnia on Paramount Plus, and a new Disney Plus rockumentary about the life and times of legendary US group The Beach Boys.
And we'll also be checking out A League of Their Own Mexican road trip. I do like that. That's on Sky. And Aussie crime drama Bay of Fires on ITVX. But first, Ian, what is in the news?
Two bits of news, Hannah. First of all, Binge Watch has reached its 200th episode, yes, and we're in the top 5 UK TV review podcasts on Apple Podcasts. So how's about that? Anyway, stop blowing our own trumpets. The other bit of news is that the second series of Wednesday, the Netflix Addams Family spin-off, will feature the lovely Joanna Lumley as Grandmama, and we'll also be seeing Steve Buscemi, Billy Piper and Thandie Newton. Good guest cast. What else is in the news, Hannah?
That's a great lineup, isn't it? Well, Robin Wright will direct and star in Prime Video's The Girlfriend, about a mum who is suspicious of her son's new romance. Aren't all mums? Anyway, onwards.
Well, you can't fault us for variety this week, Hannah. We're going to start on Disney Plus with a new music documentary that will be available on Friday, the 24th of May. It's called The Beach Boys, and here's a clip.
Ladies and gentlemen, The Beach Boys!
The Beach Boys just represented some sort of fantasy.
They were participating in the creation of a California dream.
Man, they made me want to go to where they had cars and girls in bikinis and sun.
Well, this is right up my street, as you can imagine, Hannah. I'm a huge Beach Boys fan. Of course, the band was formed in the early 1960s by the Wilson brothers, Brian, Carl and Dennis, along with their cousin Mike Love, who was the lead singer, and their friend Al Jardine. But as you will see from this feature-length documentary, the lineup did change quite a bit. At one point it included Glenn Campbell, partly because Brian, who was sort of the production genius in the band, he didn't like touring, so they used to draft people to go into the touring version of the band. So yeah, it's a look back over the history of the band. I mean, they've done so much, but it touches on, for instance, the relationship with the dad, who was not a particularly nice piece of work, and you get an insight into how he was a very strict parent and how that might have impacted on the boys. And he did become their manager, but there was a falling out, and most shockingly, he sold the rights to the songs, depriving future generations of millions of pounds in royalties. So yes, we see a bit of that. We get a bit of an insight into the kind of rivalry with the Beatles when the Beatles were up and coming, and that the Beach Boys were like, oh, who's this new British band that kind of knocking us off our perch, that kind of culminated in their masterpiece Pet Sounds, and the orchestration on that. They kind of went from singing about surf, sun, cars and girls to much more introspective songs and lyrics with this amazing Brian Wilson production, and he was quite influenced by Phil Spector, the legendary producer. So yeah, for music fans are going to absolutely love it. They don't really go into, there were quite a lot of fallouts, particularly to do with the sale of the rights and royalties and so on, and there were some lawsuits. So unsurprisingly, they don't go into that. They do touch on the fact that they did collaborate with Charles Manson, who kind of became friendly with the rebellious brother Dennis. But yeah, it's fascinating, and there are a lot of talking heads who are sort of today's stars, such as Janelle Monáe or Nile Rodgers, people like that, talking about the influence of the Beach Boys and how much they love them. I'm sure you enjoyed this too, Hannah.
Yeah, we love stuff like this, don't we? I love music documentaries, and the Beach Boys music. You just know it, whether it's your era or not. And I think in many ways, documentaries like this, as we always say, you learn so much from, whether it's from the talking heads or in some cases, some instances, the people in the band that are sort of part of it. And I think that the sad part of this, like you said, is the kind of fallout. But it's not unusual, is it? It's just really regular that this seems to happen. These groups are put together. The dad's a part, it then becomes the manager. Then there's a big fallout. They're quite pushy. I mean, perhaps that's what's required to get this level of success and fame. I don't know. You'd like to think that it's not, but it seems to be a common theme, I think. But as I say, the music in this is is obviously good. A lot of people will know it, whether it's your era or not. And I just find these kind of things really, really fascinating, and the dynamic and what you see, and even us being in the press, what we see, kind of the external face versus the internal face, is so different, isn't it? And I find it fascinating, and I think they can just keep churning these sorts of things out, and we'll still be there watching, because it's just the road or the path to success is not an easy one, and the fallout, from a mental health perspective, on physically, they were young, it's exhausting but incredibly interesting. So yeah, highly recommend.
We move across to Sky Max for our next offering. It's the return of A League of Their Own, this time on a Mexican road trip. It arrived on Tuesday the 21st of May, and here is a clip.
A League of Their Own is back on the road.
Let's go!
And this time, it's to sunny Mexico. Hooray!
We bien.
I'll be setting Jill and Jamie,
I'm not joking now!
along with teammates Maisie, Mo and Micah, new challenges.
What's going on? I'm Jamie Redknapp.
Yeah, it does what it says on the tin. If you're a fan of these kind of this show, they've done a number of road trips now, then this will not disappoint, because you've got Jamie Redknapp, always present, Jill Scott, they go head to head with teammates Mo Gilligan and Micah Richards, and also comedian Maisie Adam is also in this. And there's loads of different sporting challenges, but the best part of this, I mean, of course, it's a fantastic backdrop because it's set in Mexico. And they're there on the Day of the Dead parade, and I mean, because there's just lots of funny people involved in this, including comedians, but the others are pretty funny too. The idea that they're kind of celebrating the Day of the Dead, they keep saying, isn't this just what you do at a funeral? Don't you celebrate someone's life? Isn't it sort of done now? And it's just quick, it's pacey, it's very funny, and I thought Jill Scott absolutely came into her own in this. I mean, she's just so funny but really dry. They do loads of different activities, from baseball, scuba diving, rock climbing, and of course, not a sport, but cocktail making. It's whatever team loses is always the penalty in the end. They actually take penalties in front of I think it's like 60,000 people watching, and the ultimate loser is forced to face a giant bungee swing. Now, Jamie Redknapp, as you well know, doesn't really like things like that, so watch and wait and see. It's no different to what you've already seen in terms of kind of the structure of something like this. But if it ain't broke, don't fix it, I think is the saying. And it feels very much like this. It's just the group of people that they've got together work well together. They're fun, and Jamie, who's always on it, he's very, I find he's funny because he does get nervous. And when he gets nervous, it gets a bit crabby, and you kind of get to see Jamie, and it's really funny. So I really enjoyed this, and I always enjoy them. How about you, Ian?
I enjoyed Mexico, let's put it that way. I quite like the fact that they've mixed it up a bit these days, and so they've got some women on the team. They got Jill Scott and Maisie Adam, as you say. So it's a bit less laddish banter based. But when you think of who's previously been on A League of Their Own, so of course James Corden, Jack Whitehall, and Romesh Ranganathan, well, he's still involved, but he's just a voiceover sending them on this trip. So I don't think it's as funny particularly. And the first episode is that they try out Mexican wrestling, but to me it feels because that's that one activity as a whole episode, it kind of feels a bit overstretched to me, because you watch them training for ages, and they're, unsurprisingly, they're not very good at all. Yeah, I felt it was a bit overlong, but I'm sure, fans will enjoy it. But yeah, I feel a little bit as if maybe it's reached its sell-by date, but I don't know. I mean, I haven't been keeping up with it, so but yeah, I very much enjoyed the stuff about Mexico, and I'm looking forward to the Day of the Dead episode in particular. So yeah, perfectly entertaining bit of escapist fun with picturesque backdrop and lots of tequila. Over on Paramount Plus, arriving on Thursday the 23rd of May, we have a new drama series called Insomnia, and here's a clip.
So here's one for you. Can insomnia run in families?
Sometimes. Depends what's causing it.
Since when do you nap at your desk?
I was deep in thought.
I thought you should know. I think they're finally going to make you partner.
Hopefully I'll sleep tonight.
This stars the fantastic Vicky McClure, who, of course, was in Line of Duty and more recently Trigger Point. And in this, she is playing a divorce lawyer called Emma, who is happily married with 2 children, and she's approaching her 40th birthday. But she is suffering from insomnia, which, as anyone who's ever suffered it, it's just very distressing. It's horrible to be sleep deprived. And her sister rocks up, Phoebe, played by Leanne Best, and she's kind of a free spirit who's been travelling. They have an interesting relationship because we get some flashbacks to when they were kids, and we see them and their mother, who was also insomniac, but they're almost like scenes from a horror film. She used to kind of do strange things while she was sleepwalking. Emma finds herself doing similar things, and it is really scary, because imagine if you're sleepwalking and you wake up and you find yourself, at one point she wakes up and she's filled a bath, and you think, oh my god, what could have happened? It's a really interesting premise. I think it has got slight elements of horror. I think that the sisters are very well cast, because you really believe they could be related, and I like the kind of the domestic setup is believable. It's a proper grown up serious drama. And McClure she's always good. She's great in this. So yeah, I thought it was a strong first episode. What did you think, Hannah?
Yeah, I do like Vicky McClure, and it is quite unusual to see her in sort of quite a different role actually for her. Sort of, less racing around trying to, catch criminals. And as you say, I think insomnia, fortunately, I don't suffer from it, but it must be utterly awful. I mean, it is a form of torture, isn't it? It's just absolutely dreadful. And I think a lot of people do suffer from it and will relate to this in many ways. I think it's a really interesting premise for a story, because she's pretty young. She's just coming up to her 40th birthday when she starts to struggle with this insomnia, and it kind of brings back all the memories of her mother's battle, who had quite a severe mental illness. So I think it's quite a challenge, quite a challenging part to play, but nothing that she takes it in her stride and she does it really well. And I think, well, I was certainly gripped from the off. It just sort of captures you immediately. So yeah, thumbs up.
We're going to finish over on ITVX with another new drama series, which also arrived on Thursday, the 23rd of May. It's called Bay of Fires, and here's a clip.
I need you to listen to me. 2 men are here to kill you.
What are you talking about?
We have to get you out right now.
We're going away for a while. A surprise holiday.
She has completely lost him.
Why is everyone staring at us?
This is a funny one, because I don't quite know. I didn't think I was going to like it, but then the more I watched of it, the more I did like it. So it's got a sort of, a bit of Ozark and a bit of Schitt's Creek in it, because it's really dark and creepy, but also got sort of funny elements to it as well. And I find those two genres quite hard, as I've always say, to they kind of collide, but it sort of works here. It's set in Australia. and it stars the 12's Marta Dusseldorp. She plays the part of a very wealthy Melbourne CEO, and she's also a single mum. And it sort of jumps around to the wonderful life, and then suddenly she's wanted. I mean, it's pretty creepy. You'd imagine this would be quite a nice sort of backdrop. Unlike Mexico, this is not a particularly nice backdrop. It's sort of a bit gritty and a bit horrible kind of town. And she's in doing a supermarket shop, and she's shot at by these Chechen hitmen, which don't really look as you'd imagine hitmen to look like. And she has to flee. She has to get out and take this sort of new identity. And she's got her 2 children, Otis and Iris, there with her. And she's called Stella. She finds herself in this new home in Mystery Bay. I mean, it's an absolute. It's a dump, and the locals call it Misery Bay, and you can see exactly why. It's just absolutely grim. The house she's having to live in, just you wouldn't really want to leave anything there. It's really run down and horrible. And it's her sort of coming to terms with this new life of going from being sort of this really wealthy, affluent, having everything she wants, to suddenly just having, what she's got on her back, and that's the end of it. As the story goes on, I mean, I sometimes wonder where these ideas come from, because it just gets sort of more and more bizarre, because actually where she is much more dangerous than where she was running from. So, the children saying, why is everyone staring at us? And then she'd go and knock on a window and they just close the curtains. And it's just this Mystery Bay is it's really unwelcoming. Loads of ex-convicts there. It's like people have all been put there who, the kind of the misfits, I suppose, and the kind of people that society don't really want around them have been put into one place. And you see her kind of coming to terms with that and trying to work out what to do and her new life there. So I didn't think I'd like it, and I sort of liked it more than I did. I still found the whole premise, if I'm honest with you, a little bit odd. And I'm not, dare I say it, a massive fan of Schitt's Creek. I really struggle with that too. So the fact that this has got sort of that sort of element to it, I think probably didn't help. It's a bit different, and I think it probably will go down quite well. And I think it's I think it has, because it was I think I'm right in saying that it was on in Australia first. I think, was it?
I think you are right.
Yeah, I think I'm right on that. So it was a hit for them to then bring it over here. So, yeah, I don't know what you're thinking. I thought it was a funny one. It's not particularly obvious, and it is a little bit different, and therefore might work.
I didn't like it.
Okay.
Although I am interested in Tassie, which is where they flee to, the island off Australia. So the whole setup, I think, it gets off to a very bad start, because, as you say, Chechen hitmen are trying to kill her. Why? We don't know. And they kind of chase her into her house. And then they seem to give up really easily and let her get away. And then this mysterious woman appears and says, you've got to leave now, just take your kids, go, we'll send you to this place, and there's no real explanation of who this person is. And she just takes it all in good faith. Oh, yeah, I'll just rather than go to the police or whatever, she says, oh yeah, okay, I'll just run away and do what you say. So I think that's not convincing at all. And then they turn up the quirkiness, that kind of particular Aussie quirkiness that we've seen in a lot of films and TV shows, to the max, to really overdo the kind of fish out of water, weird locals sort of thing. And she plays the sort of stressed out mum quite well. And obviously she's dragging the kids along. So the son, who's the older one, is more sort of rebellious, and he's very unhappy. But there was the younger kid is a bit more wide-eyed. So yeah, I didn't buy into it from the off. It's a very odd mix of supposedly like high stakes thriller and comedy. It's just tonally, mate, it's all over the show. So yeah, not for me. But yeah, why not try an episode and see what you think? But certainly, I didn't buy into it. Now we've got to that time, Hannah, where we find out what the hell you've been binging on this week.
Well, not a huge amount, other than the fact that we had to watch the football at the weekend because my husband has a bet with somebody else about who can get higher up in the Premier League. And it was really neck and neck. And and one of us had to take the other couple out for dinner to a very posh restaurant. So safe to say, and luckily for us, we won. But that's what we were doing at the weekend, glued.
Oh, well, funnily enough, I was at Selhurst Park watching Crystal Palace thrash Aston Villa. But because they are in the Champions League, the Villa fans were just having a party. A lot of them were dressed as traffic cones. So that was fun. On telly, however, well, there's a very good sports documentary on Netflix all about the Formula One racing driver Michael Schumacher. That's recommended. And I revisited that great documentary about the Fire Festival, this kind of luxury music festival that all went badly wrong. So both of those are worth a look. Just got time to look ahead to next week's pod, Hannah. So what are we going to be talking about?
Well, Famous Faces celebrate North London's music mecca in rockumentary series Camden on Disney+.
And an American version of the hit Sky TV drama Mad Dogs lands on UK TV Play. So we look forward to those and much, much more. But in the meantime, listeners, keep watching.